everyone, this is Mindy Eggen for Scrapbook and Cards Today magazine, and today I'm here to share inspiration using the Let's Stamp Together kit for September 2025 featuring hero arts. I'm going to be taking these mini bags of chips and turning them into mini note cards. And if you follow me on any of my personal social media, you may already know that my son is a little obsessed with bags of chips, so I created these with him in mind. Let's take a quick look at what's included in the Let's Stamp Together kit. So you do have your postcard in there that tells you about Hero Arts, which is the company that is featured this month, the products that you have included, which is a two-piece stencil. So there's a lot of different ways you can customize your bag of chips and also individual chips. We have a fantastic sentiment set that has some punny sentiments in there, which were a lot of fun. And then we have our dies, and this is the main die to create your bag of chips. But if you want to do some layering, there are individual pieces for that, plus individual pieces to create your chips. The first thing that I'm going to do is take that main die piece and I'm going to die cut it. Two of them are going to be from colored cardstock, which are from Spellbinders. And then I am going to create one with a white piece of cardstock to be able to do some stenciling. Starting with colored cardstock is just another way to really bring out the color if you want to get more of a realistic bag look to it. And then there's also these couple pieces of chips that I'm going to be die cutting out of a light yellow cardstock. And I love the extra added detail that the dies provide. I have a bunch of these pre-cut and ready to go, so I'm going to put these off on the side and I'm going to start by ink blending on my actual bag of chips. I'm using my very well-loved 9x12 sticky mat from Altenew to hold my cardstock in place, and then I'm going to bring out these stencils. So I'm going to start by stenciling in the top and bottom portion of the bag of chips. So I just need to align that with the edges of the cardstock. This is going to give me that color going all the way across the bag. It's not going to have any white border to it. The first bag of chips that I'm going to do is one that my son has drawn over and over again, and I'm going to be using colors from the Hero Arts Hero Hues line to do that. So I'm starting with papaya ink for the top and bottom portion, using a blending brush to apply just kind of a nice light shade of that ink. I'll remove this layer of the stencil. I'm going to shift that over so I can color in the center portion. And I love that you can have the option of leaving it white if you want, or you can stencil it in. For this area, I'm going to use pale tomato. So I was trying to come as close as I could to the actual bag design that my son loves. Again, just using a blending brush to apply that color. For this one, I did intend to have the top and bottom edge of the bag white, but I didn't mask off those areas and got a little carried away with my blending, but I'm not worried. I'm going to fix that a little later on when I start the assembly. Now, also on this stencil set are these open areas of the stencil that would allow you to stencil on your chips. So I wanted these little triangles. I know it's not exactly what this actual brand has, but I thought they looked really cute on the bag. So I masked off areas around that stencil, and I'm coming in with, I believe, the papaya ink once again, just applying a heavier hand, or you could come in with a darker shade. So I do use a variety of colors from Hero Arts. I know I use tangerine, or you could use pumpkin, just depending on how much darker you want that color chip to be. So I just added one up on top, one up on bottom, and then also part of the other stencil are detail areas. It does have a detail for the actual bag itself. I'll be using that a little later on. Right now, I'm just lining up the detail area for the chips, and I'm going to come in with a little bit of pale tomato to add the details of the chips. So this one is being stenciled on, but my cards a little later on, or the other bags that I created, are going to be using the die cut pieces. I'll remove this bag of chips. I'm going to bring in the bag that I created. I believe this is carrot cardstock from Spellbinders. Since I already had orange ink on my stencil, I'm going to go ahead and create another bag here. Now this one, I did go with a shade darker of orange. So this is tangerine. Again, just coloring in the top and bottom portion. So when I remove that stencil, you can see that I have that lighter shade of cardstock on the very top and very bottom. Now for the middle portion, I'm coming in with pumpkin ink. Now, a little later on, I think probably off screen, I lined it up and came back over it with pale tomato to give it more of that reddish tone. But I started off with pumpkin. So you can see here after I removed the stencil that pumpkin didn't show up quite as well as I had hoped it to, and that's probably where I had lined it back up later on and did the pale tomato. But for right now, I moved on to the other part of the stencil that adds some shadow areas to the bag, which I thought was really fun. And for that, I did pale tomato. So that's just going to give a little bit more detail around the edge of the bag. Off screen, I cleaned off the stencil and I'm bringing in the green cardstock bag. For this, I'm using Fresh Lawn ink. Once again, I am filling in the top and bottom portion of the bag. So when I remove the stencil, it's going to have that light green cardstock around the very outer edge. And on this bag, I am going to leave that centerpiece the actual color of the cardstock, but I am going to bring in the details to kind of add those fun shaded areas to the bag, like it's kind of crinkly like you would get in a store. And I just came in with a heavier hand of that Fresh Lawn ink. I'm going to do all of my stamping at once a little bit later on. Since I had my inks and my blending brushes out, I'm going to come in and add some shading to the edge of the chips. And I just picked one side of the chip to add that shading on with a smaller blending brush. For this, I am using Spicy Mustard ink. I'm going to work on creating the actual shaped card for all of these bags of chips. I have a piece of white cardstock that's 5.5 by 8.5, and I'm scoring it at 4.25. So just like an A2 side folding card base. I have 3 bags of chips, so I did 3 card bases, just reinforcing that fold with a bone folder. Now, an important note here is you want to make sure that the direction of your bag is the same as what the front of your bag is going to be. You can see I'm kind of lining it up to make sure it's going in the same direction. Otherwise, it won't line up perfectly or your bags of chips will open upside down. And another key point is you want to make sure the edge of the die is overhanging your folded edge. Otherwise, you'll just have 2 separate pieces of cardstock. So you want to make sure that you have that uh, die cut edge over or past that folded area. I'm using some low tack tape to hold that in place. And then I'm going to run that through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cut machine. And this is going to give me my card base. Now, of course, there's one side that's a little cut off, but it's going to work out perfectly fine for that shaped card. And these come out so cute and they're able to stand up so you can display them on the desk. I went through and I created 2 more. So now I have my 3 card bases for my mini note cards. I'll then move on to do my stamping. So I'm starting with the green bag of chips, and there's so many fun sentiments on here. Hero Arts really knocked it out of the park with this. I think these are great for friends, family members, and kids if you want to put little note cards in their lunch, I think is really fun. This one I would send more to a friend, but I'm stamping all of these using my mini Misty tool and some VersaFine black ink. There are also some additional just kind of details that you can add to the bag. So this one, I put that little kind of quarter starburst at the very top. Now for my orange bag, I have that nacho average friend chip. Super, super cute. And then I'm going to do one more here for the one that I stenciled on a white cardstock. And that one is Chip Chip Hooray. On some of the bags of chips, when I did the stamping, there is an embossed line that the die provides on there, and that created a little bit of a gap on some of my letters that I stamped. So a little hack for that is to take a fine liner black pen and just fill in those areas. So it doesn't look like your stamp was defective in any way. It's not. It was just because of the embossed line. And remember that card front I stenciled and I got a little carried away with my stenciling and it got on the white edge. Now, my trick for that to kind of hide that is I die cut another bag of chips from white cardstock and I trimmed off my stenciled one and I'm going to layer that right over the top. So that is an easy fix too. If you ever get a little carried away with your ink blending for the edge of the bag of the chips, I just trimmed off that edge on my original one and I'm layering it over the top of another one. Then I can move on to assembling my little mini note cards. So I'm going to be adding tape runner to the top of my card front, and then I can position the top layer of the front of my bag of chips over the top, and it lines up perfectly. You do want to make sure when you're die cutting your card bases that the bag of chips lines up the way the card front is, because they can be, you may open your bag of chips upside down if you don't check that every now and then. I'm going through and I'm doing that for all of them, making sure those edges are nice and lined up. And as I mentioned earlier, These stand up perfectly on your desk. So if you want to display them, or maybe you put these in a lunchbox as a little kind of encouragement note, then the kids can stand them up on their desk. The last finishing touch I have is by adding those die cut chips that I had blended on earlier. So I'm just doing them on the two colored cardstock pieces here, or the two colored cardstock bags here, using my liquid glue to attach them. This was such an unexpected set, and I love how it came out. It may also be because I'm partial to these because my son loves these so much. And I am going to create a set to put on his desk and maybe even slip into his lunch bag for lunch. I think he'll get a big kick out of it. And if you're subscribed to the Let's Stamp Together kit and you have this, don't forget to check out the other areas of the stencil and the stamp set where you can do even more designs to customize your bag of chips. These are such fun mini note cards to create. I hope you enjoyed today's video and found some inspiration for it. Thanks so much for joining.